Whoa, hey, hold it. 4 days? You can't manage a job if you haven't been there for 4 days. Hey, it's Joel Walsman, CEO and Master Electrician of Jefferson Electric. I'm sitting in our warehouse. This portion of the warehouse will be our future office, but we're gonna spec it out and build it out after, and only after, we've taken care of operations, because that's where the money's made. This video is about estimating as a subcontractor. In previous videos, we've talked about the nuts and bolts and the tangibles and intangibles of estimating direct to consumer. But this video is estimating as a subcontractor. Let me tell you a couple things that come to mind immediately. Not all general contractors are created equal. Some have an inherent bias toward the customer or towards their subs. I have some GCs that are extremely loyal. They never bid us out. They never shop around. They never, ever will leave us. Very loyal. And I have some GCs, 3 bids every time. It's very transactional. You just have to know what you're up against. Make no assumptions. Additionally, some GCs have an open and transparent pricing relationship. They'll tell you exactly what their margin is. They'll tell you exactly what the markup is. They'll tell you the customer exactly what their markup is on the job. And so what that means is, and you need to ask the question, if you don't know, you're operating blind. Because what that means is, if there's a midstream change order, and that customer just walks up to you on the job site casually and said, hey, I thought about adding some outlets over there. What's that gonna cost me? You could put yourself in some hot water, some real hot water, by saying, well, you know, we charge $125 an outlet. For instance, you know, that's a fair range in a lot of circumstances. And you know what? That customer goes armed and equipped with enough to roast that GC. Because he's like, customer to GC later, and then you catch the tail end of that heat. The customer's like, he said $125 an outlet. Look at your bill right here. You're charging me $225. You have almost a 100% markup on everything he's doing. Why didn't I hire these people directly? What are you here for? The job site's a mess. And the customer could just get roasted. There may not be a transparent pricing relationship between us and the GC and the customer, and it's important for you to know that. I always ask every GC, do I have permission to talk pricing with the customer? We've got GCs that do flat rate markup. Whatever the subs charge, GC puts 20% on top and passes that invoice on to the customer. Literally just slaps 20% on anything and everything and pushes it right across the table to the customer. That's what they do. And that's obviously for their coordination efforts, for everything they do, and it's justified. That's fully justified, and in fact, that's probably not even enough for everything the GCs do. Before you submit your bid to the general contractor, what are the early warning signs of a project that's going off the rails that you need to be keenly aware of and watching for before you jump into that contractual relationship? Here's another thing. You ask those GCs plenty of questions, and if they can't answer them, those are early trouble signs. A lot of GCs overcommit. They're spread across too many job sites. They don't have enough project managers. They have more salespeople than they have leadership and management in the field. Because they're spread thin, they don't know how to answer your questions. They don't have that information. They don't have the plan sets. They don't have things in writing, or maybe not updated. Look at the document that they handed you, the plan set. If that date on that plan set, and there should be a date, if that date is 3 months old, you might just ask, is this the most recent plan? Have there been any updates since this plan set came out? Should I expect any changes? Those are all critical, mission critical questions. Because the GC, if those organizational things, they'll give it away. If he says, yeah, you know, I think a couple things have changed since then, but that's pretty close. And guess what? Not good enough. Somebody's going to end up in hot water. Somebody's going to get a bill later that they're not going to want to pay because they're not expecting it, because pretty close ain't close enough. A dirty job site. A dirty job site is clear evidence of chaos. It means the manpower is not there to hold the trades accountable for cleanup. That's just a simple thing. That's a simple element. It's a daily element. But if it's not there, it's not there. If they can't get the job site clean, guess what? Are they getting all the locations dialed in? Are they communicating well with the customer? Is everything lubricated, all the gears flowing and moving freely? I doubt it. A job site, almost without fail. The messiest job sites I've ever been on are the jobs that were the most at risk of somebody getting stiffed. It's a fact. There's a clear and direct correlation in all of my working history between messy job sites and future problems. I'm just telling you. Absenteeism. If the contractor shows up to the job site to meet you for the bid, and he's like, oh man, I haven't been here in 4 days, and whoa, hey, hold it. 4 days? You can't manage a job if you haven't been there for 4 days. That's a job that is experiencing problems. Because one, it's moving too slowly. And there's a lot of stress, both financial stress and relational stress, that is put on a job that's moving too slowly. Two, he's not in touch with the customer. The customer is, I guarantee you, over a 4-day period of time in the middle of a project that's very significant to them, they've changed their mind 3 times. Customers are tricky. They don't pin down all their selections at the beginning of the job. Like, things evolve. Customers change their minds, and if you're 4 days disconnected from a job, that's a problem sign. How about the old, oh, we're not pulling permits on this one. Oh yeah? When is the last time you pulled permits? And what do you have to hide, right? Are you not licensed? Oh, what's going on? That's a problem sign. Doing things by the book, doing things right, is evidence of integrity. And evidence of integrity needs to be seen because you want that integrity to circle back on the tail end to pay your final invoice. Here's another problem sign of a job that's experiencing or will experience stress: lack of selections and lack of placements. If contractors say, well, there are going to be 3 outlets in this room, but we don't know where they're going to go yet, and there's going to be a light above the table, or maybe 2, wife still needs to decide, and we've got some fixtures we're going to need to order's not been placed yet. Like, whoa, hold on. What bit of information am I supposed to operate on here? I understand a little bit of that, but they need to be at the point where they're respecting my time enough to have made selections. Fixtures are purchased and on order, especially right now with current conditions. Those back orders can kill you. Return trips, delays. They're like, there's one light fixture that needs to go up. It's not in yet. And they're like, well, we can't pay the invoice until the job is done. You're like, the fixture's coming from China. It's back ordered 8 weeks. My work is done. I've fulfilled every contractual obligation. I'm like, those are all problem signs. That being said, I'm dogging on the GCs a little bit. I love you guys. We get a ton of work from you, and it's very relational, and we have a lot of good experiences. One place where there's stress, one last time, where there's stress is scheduling. One sub pushes a job a couple of days, and there's a contingency. We can't get in there and trim out until the painting is complete. Well, guess what? Sub pushes 2 days. That doesn't work for our schedule. Betsy's booked on Tuesday. We can't just push 2 days. We've got to push 2.5 weeks. And now the GC's angry at us. We could have fulfilled the commitment. We could have kept the schedule. Someone else changed it on us. And we couldn't swap it. We had a weather contingency. Whatever the case may be, there can be a lot of stress working for GCs around the subject of scheduling. That's a pain point. But that being said, we don't go on public forums. We don't go to the open market. The GCs come to us. They're desperate for qualified subs. We could have 14, 15 general contractor relationships right now that are feeding us job after job after job for free. And let me tell you why we don't. They tend to come at a smaller margin because we don't have sales and marketing costs. Those jobs come directly to us with a relational connection for free. But they come with a fair degree of complexity because of the number of relationships involved, because of the number of trades and subcontractors involved. So we exchange free for complexity. It's a toss-up. We have chosen to intentionally diversify our market, minimize the number of qualified, quality, general contractors we work for, and maintain a balance between our service categories. Work that comes easily, but is complicated with a slightly lower margin, but with reduced overhead, it's a toss-up. General contractors, at the end of the day, they're your friend. They're like Mr. Rogers. They're there for you. A good general is gonna be in your court. They're gonna defend their subs. That might, they might be with a customer for a month and then it's done. But that sub, we've worked for a decade, more than that actually, with several general contractors, and that is an enduring relationship. We're vital for their success. They're committed to our success, and that's when things work well. When we've got each other's back, when we're communicating, when we're covering the bases together as a team. If you're not a team with your general, you're in for trouble. That's a problem. There's enough complexity, there's enough exposure and risk on the job site. If you're not a cohesive team with your general contractor, you're gonna have problems. So the riches are in the niches. There is more money to be made going directly to the consumer and carving out your own slice of the market. When you work through a general contractor, typically you're giving up points. Now, there is a time I made $245 an hour as a second-year apprentice working for a general contractor, and let me tell you what happened there. He bid to the customer $250 to install one receptacle and swap one out to match. As an apprentice, after hours, I showed up with my milk crates in the back of the truck, had a couple of parts, and within about 45 minutes, I had done the job. And I looked at him and I said, oh, it's gonna be like $80, I thought I was shooting high. He's like, no, bro. I estimated $200. I would feel dishonest to my customer if I didn't pay $200 and yet I accepted my full markup. So what I'm gonna do for you is I'm gonna give you the full cost of the work that you did. Here's $200. So in 45 minutes, I made $200 and I felt like a king. That right there is a good general contractor. That's someone who's in your court. Generally speaking though, you're gonna give up 5 to 15 points on your margin working through a general contractor because he's gotta have the markup on top and still be able to sell that job. So let's say you had a 40% gross margin on your own job. Now you're down to a 30% gross margin on his job. It's a trade-off, but it is a unique and distinct revenue stream that you don't have to do anything to maintain other than take care of that one individual or that one company. Here's one of the values, not to be overlooked, of being on a job site. You know where I get work referrals from? Plumbers, drywallers, framers. These guys send me jobs because their buddies know they're in the trade. They're like, hey, yo, Joe, I'm looking for an electrician. Joe's like, I was on a job site with an electrician. His work looked good. Because plumbers, they've been on job sites. They know whose work looks good, whose work doesn't look good. Electricians, same thing. We know about plumbers. We know who's trying hard and who's not. We know who's cleaning after themselves. All of these things matter. So don't be ashamed. Market yourself to the other trades on the job site. Whip out a card, especially if you have somebody who is showing a little bit more intentionality in the workplace, right? Hand them a card and just say, hey, I'm new to the biz. I'm looking for connections. If you got any friends, anybody who needs an electrician, I'm your guy. And you know what's so unique about that? A lot of people aren't looking for work. They're saturated with work. And so if you're the person who's stepping into it and asking for work, they're like, oh, there's somebody who's hungry. Awesome. I thought everybody was flooded right now. But if you're new to the trade and you don't have momentum yet, you might not be flooded. That's fair. It doesn't mean you're bad. You just explain the situation. Everybody's been there at one time or another. So market yourself to the host of professionals that are on the job site and develop each one of them as a relationship, a referral, and a mutually beneficial revenue stream. So having that market diversity is really, really good, particularly when you don't have momentum. Someone who's been in business for a decade or two, they understand that as good as things may be today, one thing is inevitable, and that's change. Something that's up is gonna go down, right? And so diversifying the market insulates you a little bit from that trouble. Working for realtors, working for general contractors, they all have different rhythms and their work flows in differently. And if you're able to manage 4 or 5 or 6 distinct streams of work inflow, that's a benefit. If this has been helpful, subscribe to Electric Pro Academy for real skills to make real money, and check the description for a coaching link so that you can learn from more mistakes that I've made and some of the victories too. I'd love to connect one-on-one, you and me.